Oia, ano ai me ke aloha ia kākoa pauloa e ko Hawaiʻi nei pai aina puni. O wau no keia o kumuhina eia no i kākou ma keia wahi polokalamu oia no o leo Tūtala o Hawaiʻi. Mahalo anu ia o kou no ko o kou kipa ana mai eia no maua o kuʻu wahi hoa kula. O kona inoa o Hailama Farden. Aloha mai ka aua.
Aloha e hina.
Ai, aloha mai. Mahalo anu ia oe no kou kipa ana mai, no keia wahi manawa pokole, a ka aua e launa nei, a hoʻonene a pokole no hoʻi.
Mahalo i ke kono ana mai i keia kumuhana nei o Kūhiō Kalanianaʻole ko mākou ka maliʻi kāne.
Ai, oia no.
He mana o aloha, he hali aloha ka walaʻau ana nona.
Oia no. And so mahalo nui Hailama for being willing to come, and I just wanted to like give people a little bit of how do I say it? A little bit of insider for me why this is really a great day. It's absolutely wonderful to have you. I've always looked up to you for being it and all about it. And when we were in school, I tend to like say it in jest and in humor, but it means a lot to me that, you know, we had in school, we had a student that before there were any other students doing it, that you were a light for us. And at Kamehameha, we could always count on your voice to share with us Olelo and, you know, Ike Hawaii. And that was an anchor for me. So, you know, in your name being touted about to join us today, I really just want to sit here and be your haumana, you know, because I think that people out there who are going to tune into Leo Tūtala o Hawaii are wanting a little bit of a different perspective. And I know that that's what you'll be able to share, because today we will, as you mentioned, we'll be speaking about Prince Kūhiō Kalanianaʻole. And we know that he was credited for the establishment of Hawaiian homelands. And we know that he was also quite staunch in the things that he stood for. But would you just indulge an old friend and tell us, you know, tell us the mo'olelo about Prince Kūhiō.
Mahalo iā hina. You know, and I'll say it since you want to talk back to the 1980s when we were both at Kamehameha.
I didn't say the date.
I will continue to mihi to you for the time I went jump on your car and dent your hood of your car because I was being silly. But anyway,
you know, I forgot about that. I completely forgot about that. Oh my God!
And I was half my size too, but I still made the dent. You know, and speaking of dent, I think whatever I could do, it's because people allowed it to happen. So we had folks like at Kamehameha, we had Liana Honda, we had Sarah Kiahi, Sarah Quick at that time, our kumu.
We love you.
At that point, and both our kumu made ways for us.
Absolutely.
And they, if it wasn't for their guiding a pathway, then we wouldn't be able to move. And without our kumu and their love for us, we would not be able to do the things we're able to do. And thus we can say, directly and indirectly, what we still do today, they are responsible for.
Yes, nāna ike kumu.
It's nāna ike kumu. It's he lala vo nuku ukumu. And that's mantra that I fully believe in. And any way that I can help trailblaze a pathway for my haumana or our native Hawaiian haumana, I'm going to do them. So we're going to lift them up too.
Well, absolutely. And you have done that. And I want to acknowledge on this program, Leo Tūtala, that you're one of the pioneers. The effort that was originally put forward by Kumu Kalani Akana, he gathered kupuna from across the Pai'aina, and soon after he initiated this, you joined that. And the both of you engaged kupuna and heard stories and learned about so many things from the kupuna. Their voices were recorded, their faces were shown, and we could see them, we could hear them, and when we watch these videos, we can touch them again. You then took it on and included Kumu Melelani Pang. And thanks to that pioneer work, you know, it's just like the work that our Loea, Mary Kavena Pukui, what she did. You know, without her and your and others' work to preserve the voices of our people, where would we be?
Yeah, mahalo for that. I don't know if it was necessarily pioneer in the fact that Pukui really did it. Pukui started it in the 30s, 40s, 50s, interviewing our mana leo, keeping them. So when people ask, is it this word or is it this? I was telling them, you go listen to what the mana leo say at Bishop Museum where Mrs. Pukui recorded. Or you had Larry Kimura in 1971, 72 with Kaleo Hawaii that went all the way through, picked up when Larry moved to Hilo. Puakea picks it up in 89 and continues it on. And then we're dually running Kaleo Hawaii at the end of Kaleo Hawaii at the beginning of Mana Leo. And then Mana Leo offers, like you said, not only the leo, but the picture.
Yes,
so when Kupuna says this big, we can see, you know, and what a privilege. And, you know, today I counted recently that we know of, outside of Ni'ihau, 16 Mana Leo left from that level.
Oh my.
So it is so important to continue preserving what we have. And also, it's a good lesson. You and I were talking before that, Ohana, you have the ability to record your kupuna. Whether they're even young kupuna born in the 50s, they have a mo'olelo to tell you a story and culture of your life, your family. It's so important to capture.
Hoʻolauleʻa no. 16 mana leo
that
left.
we know of.
That we know of.
And I
outside
love
of the
if we find
Ni'ihau
it
community.
outside of the Ni'ihau community. So, I mean, I can helu some of them. Earl Kava'a still working. Kameme is so lucky to have them. We have Opu'ulani Albino and Molokai still doing what she's doing. So some of these people, they're like, these Manaleo, they're getting up into their 70s and now they're the youngest.
Yes.
The oldest, we have kupuna who are, do we have 100 right now? We've recently lost Manaleo from Hana who lived in Honokowai, Mrs. Mahuna, who was Hapakolea Hapa Hawaii. Born in Hana, and she just passed away at 101 years old. And so, you know, I mean, the frailty of our language is not that with the deaths of these, but it's significant. The frailty is if we don't pick up that and awamo what we have. So.
And speaking of awamo kuleana, that segues us into Prince Kūhiō and his understanding of awamo kuleana. Can you tell us about your take on Prince Kūhiō and how did he awamo the kuleana for our people?
So I'll start by saying my interest in Prince Kūhiō probably was ignited because I was in the leadership with the Association of Hawaiian Civic Clubs. And I became first vice president, and then I became the president. I better know. Because the Association of Hawaiian Civic Clubs, established by its first club, Hawaiian Civic Club, which became Hawaiian Civic Club of Honolulu in 1918, is a child of Kūhiō. A child. And I think so much about this man. And the more I thought about him, the more I'm not just mystified in wonder, but in honor to think this man is a great man. Shame that we lost him at age 51, yeah, when he passed away.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to be 51 this year.
Hey.
You're 51 now.
I'm 52 now.
You're 52 now.
Yeah, I have an early birthday. But the sad thing about it is that we're distanced from Prince Kūhiō, Prince Kalanianaʻole by 100 years now, since he's left us. He left us in 1922, at the top of 22, January 7th. And our kupuna, your and my kupuna, knew who he was.
Yes.
And they were children when he was alive.
Yes.
But going on, when are we going to forget? I used to ask my haumana, how many of you live in Hawaiian Homes? Plenty. Yes. How many of you who live in Hawaiian Homes belong to a Hawaiian Civic Club? Nobody. None. Because they don't understand that when Prince Kūhiō creates the Association of Hawaiian Civic Clubs through the Hawaiian Civic Club, which became, like I said, Hawaiian Civic Club of Honolulu, he is doing so to give an active voice of civic identity to his people. Why does he have to give it? Well, because we're in a different government now that we're told, be quiet, be humble Hawaiians, be good and industrious Americans. And our school that you and I love so much was practicing that back then. I'm so happy to see things are different. But even when we were in school, there were still hints of it. Be good and industrious Americans.
Right, yes.
You know, why couldn't we be good, industrious Hawaiians?
Absolutely.
Or even for those who choose, be good, industrious Hawaiian Americans. Why couldn't that? If those who choose to be that. But I think, and also this whole thing about gotta be this or that, I really don't know how much time Kūhiō wasted on deciding whether he's an ali'i or not, whether he's an American or a Hawaiian. I don't think he wasted time on it. He said, I got to do what I got to do. And he understood his responsibility to his people. He knew what it was. He was given an ahu. I keep saying that, an ahu. And it was his rule. Even though a government came and stole his right to become a king, perhaps, or at least a crown prince, it never stopped him. You know, people say, oh, well, he becomes an American. He goes and serves Washington, D.C. That's because he did not get caught up in that title. Yes. He said, I need to do what I'm going to do to help my people. Yes. And right now, they need housing. Right now, they need an active voice. Yes. And there's just so much to say. So I got to admire him as one of our great heroes.
Absolutely.
He deserves a holiday. And he deserves on this holiday for people to know who he is. Not was, is. Because he is through his legacies. What are his legacies? DHHL, Department of Hawaiian Homes Land. All of you who have Hawaiian homes, all of you are a beneficiary. You benefited from it. You should be doing something to celebrate the legacy of Kūhiō. Not just through a parade either, but through the work you do, through teaching your children your mo'opuna, to telling them who is Prince Kūhiō Kalanianaʻole. You should belong to a Hawaiian Civic Club that can help continues to advocate for the protection of what you have, this benefit. Because don't think that I'm safe, I got my hale. No. Laws change up in that nation over there that affect us. And we need to be able to and ready to advocate and activate ourselves when we need to. Same thing, another pua of Prince Kūhiō was what is called today the Royal Order of Kamehameha. When he established the Ahahui Kamehameha, he actually does it in 1902, but it opens up in 03. The history that we're taught is he stands at the mound of Kamehameha's statue. And understand, this is a Kūhiō. This is a Kaumoali'i descendant, not a Kamehameha descendant. But he honored the father of our nation, our kingdom. He stands at the mound and he declares the opening of the Ahahui, reopening of the Ahahui. What does that mean? That means the Royal Order of Kamehameha, Ahahui Ka'ahumanu, Haleona Li'i Hawaii, which was the Hale Nawa during his time in the kingdom, and then the daughters and sons of Hawaiian warriors, Mamakakaua. They're not a group of elitists that people think because they see them in suits and dresses and lehulu and whatever. They have a purpose. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean, we cut that out. We cut them out. They have a purpose. Prince Kūhiō actually served as the mo'i in the Ahahui Mamakakaua, Daughters and Sons of Hawaiian Warriors. Wow. So in the Daughters and Sons of Hawaiian Warriors, for example, our leader is a Kuhina Nui. Our Kuhina Nui is Colleen Ayu at this time, Kumuhula. And way back in Prince Kūhiō's time, Prince Kalanianaʻole's time, he and Princess Kahanu became members at their choice. They were installed as members. Queen Liliʻuokalani was installed as a member. So they were members of the Mamakakaua. And when Prince Kūhiō came in, by that time, Queen Liliʻuokalani passed away. She joined right before she passed away, actually. And there's newspaper articles that talk about this. They elevate Kūhiō as senior ali'i. So that means our kupuna in 1920-21, they understood their role. They didn't go and scoff off and say, you're not a Kamehameha. You're not. Kūhiō's lineage is quite high. Lining up to all four, not only Kaumoali, but all four island lines. All four great chiefs, Ke Kaulike, another one, and on of the island of Kauai Ka'eokulani. You start to helu these ali'i pi'ilani. These are ali'i connected to Prince Kūhiō. Okay, then so those are pua. Then you continue on to. By the way, when Kūhiō does this in 02, 03 stands up the Royal Order of Kamehameha called the Ahui Kamehameha at that time, and then 1905 the Ahui Ka'ahumanu reorganizes. They're actually older. They started in 1864 under Victoria Kamamalu, Princess Kamamalu. She was the one who started the Ahui Ka'ahumanu way back then. Then in 1911, Haleʻi tries to get its. They choose not to go with the name Haleʻi. They form Haleʻi at that time. There's pictures in the newspaper of them in the early days honoring Kamehameha's Kamehameha Day. And then the Daughters and Sons of Hawaiian Warriors opens up formally because they've always been Mamakakawa, the inner guards of the ali'i, the kingdom ali'i. The Mamakakawa formalized in 1912, 12. So that's one. And then you figure with the work we have the Ahahui Pu'uhonua o na Hawaiʻi, which is Noa Aluli. We have Reverend Akaiko Akana, another gentleman, name escapes me right off, and shame on me for that. And then Prince Kalanianaʻole. Prince Kalanianaʻole is already elected to Congress 1902, but he starts 1903 January. He's gone, but he's still doing these things as he's away. And people think, oh, well, okay, I go to Washington, I get tired when I fly. No, our prince had to get on a ship, get on a train, get across the country, and then go to D.C. in an all-white, probably predominantly racist Congress. And here's the brownie, our ali'i.
So, with that said, this touches upon what you mentioned earlier, and it strikes me, and I hope that this will resonate with our people because our politics tends to divide us, especially when some in the community, like myself, we might be absolutely pro-independence. And then there are other Hawaiians who enjoy being acknowledged as American. And, they also embrace being ethnically Hawaiian and whatever kinds of cultural knowledge and practices that they have. But sometimes it gets really divisive. And I think that Prince Kalanianaʻole, his example shows that, number one, as chiefly descendant, he has that kuleana. And his availing himself to awamo, to shoulder that kuleana, said he internally placed his cultural understanding of who he is. He lived it. No matter what the system was, it did not relinquish him or release him from his duty. And that was to serve our people. And that was to advocate for our health, our well-being, our benefit. And he did just that. And like you said, he existed in an America across the seas that was extremely prejudiced and discriminatory towards people who were not white.
And he wasn't ma'a to that. He was not only not ma'a to it, he did not tolerate racism. Absolutely not. There are newspaper articles that talk about our ali'i as he's visiting. So he's going through the States. He's on a train, and it doesn't go straight to D.C. It stops. People sometimes will acknowledge, this, because he was popular.
Right.
He really was popular. People liked him. And maybe because he was something different, They knew he was royalty. Some people did. But he would stop, and then there would be stories about sightings of the prince in these states.
Perhaps in a bar.
Well, that's another thing. Sometimes he would travel with his wife, without, depending on whether she was with him. But there's stories about once he went into a lounge that was a part of a hotel, and he was staying in the hotel, and this man used a derogatory term and called him that. And I'm sorry I don't have the newspaper articles to read it to you because it's so precise. And Kūhiō just first of all, I think he gave him a warning. He continued. He beat him up.
Somebody called him the N-word.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Kūhiō beat him up. And I kind of giggle because, you got to also look at the context. We look at things through 2023 eyes. They're like, oh, yes, bully. You can't. No, in those days, it was pretty tough.
Yes.
You fought. It was common to have fights. And that was how they resolved it. It may not be the right way, but that is how they resolved it. You don't mess with Kūhiō too, because when he died, he was recognized as the last Lua master.
Oh.
He was the last martial artist that had all the ai.
Oh.
So I think when he died, he may have died with a lot. Because when Lua started to come back in the 50s, there were pukas, gaps they had to fill in with other martial arts. I'm not saying that's wrong at all. But I know that when Kūhiō died, he died with all his ai. I don't know if him teaching.
Tell the people, if you would, what do you mean by ai?
Oh, your moves. Your moves. So as simple as a small thing that would snap your fingers to ward off somebody coming at you like this, and to whether it's an Aliʻi Makaʻāinana or something else, whatever ai is called.
Do you know those? Are you familiar with those?
I wonder, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But at any rate, with Kūhiō, I admire him because how come we don't know that? Because you don't talk about it. He didn't talk about it.
Right.
But don't cross him. So he goes there, he does this. Luckily, the hotel owner knew who he was and actually kicked the other guy out. So, he said, not room for racism. He goes to, was it Switzerland or Sweden? I'm blank now on the place. He goes there. He gets into a same thing. But the guy he beats up this time is a crown prince over there. So it was a little different. Kūhiō got fined $500. Oh. And I'm thinking, $500
for fighting.
Yeah, at the end of 1800s, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money today. You ask me for $500, I want to give it to you. I don't know if I can. But you get fined $500 back in the late 1890s.
That's like $10,000.
Wow. So, but he's just and he probably didn't care. I don't see anything about him mourning the loss of that money. Not that he was rich or wealthy, but the fact is, that guy was wrong. You don't treat people this way. And I think because the mores, the ku'una, the way we're raised, it makes who our character is, develops our character. I grew up the way I grew up because my grandparents raised me. I was raised by my paternal grandparents. And so, sometimes people used to tease me and say, oh, this is kupuna coming, kupuna Hailama. But and then let it go. But the reality is we're groomed by our people we're raised, our influences. And he was. He was raised by, several people, but he grew up in the courts. Kalakaua was not so unwise to pick his three nephews and establish them, I think, 1884, calling them Crown Princes of Hawaii. They get the title HRH, His Royal Highness. Real-time monarchy in the Western sense, Aliʻi. Yes. You don't need no title in Hawaii to know that's our Aliʻi. But in the Western sense, that's big time.
You are acknowledged.
Yes. And it's going to be Kalakaua to Liliʻuokalani Kalani, to Ka'iulani, to Kavananakoa, to Kūhiō. By that time, I believe, eventually, Kiliahonui passes away. But Prince Kūhiō knew his role. They were raised. And a lot of folks don't understand that Prince Kūhiō was not only the nephew of Queen Kapiolani, Kalakaua's wife, because their mother was a sister. Kikaulike Princess Kikaulike was a sister of Kapiolani. They were granddaughters of Kaumuali'i, the last king of Kauai.
Yes.
But on top of that, he was a grandnephew of King Kalakaua too. So Kalakaua's line intermingled with that family too. So he's like double blood Ali'i right there, just in the kingdom eyes. And so he knew his role. He grew up, he understood, you couldn't tell him. He spoke Hawaiian. I think there's one example of a mele that he composed, so we know that he could. Of course, our Ali'i did. It was part of their growing up. He knew who he was. I bet he felt very comfortable sitting on the floor, eating the foods of our people, as he did sitting in his punanaka manu and smoking cigars with these American businessmen. I know our time is short, so I wanted to address about his influence, speaking about these folks. So I already established that he's going to a Congress, pretty much, I think, all white Congress, many of which are racist. And he has to bring forth this bill, Hawaiian Reformation Act, which later becomes the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. It's having some issues. 2021, I went to the library. We went to celebrate Prince Kalanianaʻole's success. And we remembered his 100th anniversary on July 9th there. And we were hosted in a dinner in the Library of Congress where we got to see the actual documents, the actual law, in those days, the computer, correct, delete, whatever. Those days, crossed out, Annie, you saw, right? Put the paper on top of the other one to correct it. And being able to actually look at the document so I can see with my own eyes. When Kūhiō proposed the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act, he wanted 1/32 Hawaiian as the quantum. Not because he wanted 1/32, because for him it wasn't an issue. A Hawaiian is a Hawaiian. And the Westerners made us divide ourselves by saying, if you have Hawaiian, you this. Or if you're pure Hawaiian, you're this. Or if you're 1/32 Hawaiian, you're this.
Right.
According to the vision, the thought of these people, a Hawaiian is a Hawaiian. And we have to start embracing some of those ideas. That was what Kūhiō wanted.
Kāko'o.
He wanted, and I saw it with my own eyes, but it was the racism that got. By the way, there are a lot of comments captured in the hearings by some of these folks on how racist they were about Hawaiians and how they didn't want and how they feared things and all kind of crazy stuff. But I'll say that with respect to this bill and its passage, Kūhiō had to negotiate. They wanted pure Hawaiian. That's what the Washington guys, because their idea was the pure Hawaiian's going to die out fast.
Yes.
And then we can get the land back. It'll come back. And then
Yes.
Kūhiō got his thing.
Yes.
And they also only granted him a 5-year. This is going to be a 5-year pilot.
Oh.
That's all it was. So Kūhiō does all of this. 1920, it gets to passage and it goes through to acceptance. It then goes to July 9th. The President of the United States signs it into law. Wow. It becomes law.
So Hailama, how close do you think that we could be to changing that to his original intent? Because now clearly, I'm someone who, I could possibly benefit from my mother if my mother was awarded a parcel, but on my own, no.
So, the thing about it is we're going to get divided as a people when that issue comes up. And I think it's going to come up. It's come up before. We're going to be divided, and it's unfortunate. We're going to be divided because of this legacy of 100 years of the people who made us divide ourselves by telling us only have Hawaiians in it. So we're going to have to do everything in our power not to divide ourselves and to see what opportunities we have to lift each other up. We should never forget about that. Kūhiō was all about that. And I only see that by his actions. I didn't know him. But I wanted to add a little bit more. Again, this man, from a boat to a train, to D.C., to the cold, to whatever it was, to the racism, all of that challenges, and he still pushed this thing through. And he didn't have a vote. Because as a territorial delegate, you have 0 vote. How is it that this brownie from Hawaii, no vote, can influence? His brilliance. He used his wisdom. His wisdom.
And
And there it was. His charisma and wisdom. He brings 100 someone. I just learned this recently. And it's in the Civil Beat articles too. He brings over 100 representative leaders from DC to Hawaii. Bring them here. Let them see. It becomes normalized and real for them. And they got things passed that way. He takes them to Punanamanu. They have cigars. They talk story. He brings airplanes here, and they fly together. Prince Kū is one of the first people to fly on an airplane.
He learned how to fly an airplane.
Yeah, there's a picture of him with that too. I mean, all of this beauty of go, we're going to do it. It was. I don't think it was a cannot do. He was a we're going to do. But what I forgot to mention is between 1918 and 1921, there's a huge pandemic. The Spanish flu claimed 50 million people in the first year alone. And COVID, which we all are very close to, didn't even come close to 50 million people in the first year. But Kūhiō still on a boat, on a train, and battled for his people. Man, we should be indebted to this man.
Wow.
And then it gets passed. 5-year trial period. He comes home to Hawaii in December. He starts to not be well. He dies on January 7th. Dies. And he never gets to see what the success of this program, because it doesn't even roll out, yet. Thank God for commissioners and for other delegates who continue to pick up awamo. You talk about take on that task. We're so fortunate because of that. I mean, that's his influence. And you know what? That's one person. You're in my age. I have to go, man, did I do anything that important? What else can I do? So that's what we should all be asking ourselves. All of us kanaka should be saying, what have I done? What critical impact have I contributed? Because it is not for Hina, it's not for Hailama. It is for all of us to do.
Aye.
And if we did it collectively, wow.
Aye. So mahalo anui Hailama. I am just amazed by the knowledge that you're sharing, and I could sit here and listen to you tell a story all day because it doesn't even seem like half an hour has passed. But I think we should say aloha, and we're going to come back and make sure that we do part 2 because you have so much more to tell us. So stay tuned, everyone. Mahalo anui no ke kipa ana mai ia maua. Manea wahi polo kalamuna ho'i, o ia ho'i o ka leo Tūtala o Hawaiʻi. Mahalo.
Aloha.